Hello, everyone, and welcome to In the Making, a series of conversations from North Bennett Street School where we connect with a range of new voices, fields, and perspectives. Before we get into our conversation, I want to recognize and thank the Dora Foundation and Eaton Vance for making this program possible. Thanks for joining us, everyone. My name is Kristen Odle. I'm an NBSS staff member and host of In the Making. My co-host and wing person today is Rob O'Dwyer, my friend and director of admissions here at NBSS.
Thank you, Kristen. And thank you all for joining us. This is a great opportunity for us to showcase the building in a safe way. We are grateful to be participating in Design Week and have done so before in person. And I've been a part of that. So I'm happy to help Kristen out a little bit here. And I just wanted to share with everybody, the building's about 60,000 square feet. While we have about 45 minutes to an hour, we'll try and get to everything and answer all of your questions. But please know that this is not your only opportunity to engage with us. And hopefully when it's safe enough, we'll be able to invite you to the building proper as well.
Thank you, Rob. A little background. Some of you may know the institution, but I'll just give you some little morsels of information. America's first trade school, North Bennett, was founded in 1881 by visionary educator and philanthropist Pauline Agassiz Shaw. Today, we're known globally for a range of programs and courses in hand-based craft and trades, which help folks achieve meaningful careers or just learn some new skills. We also partner with like-minded organizations, from schools and museums to nonprofits and community service orgs, and we couldn't do that without this great facility that we have. Which brings us to the program today. As part of Boston Design Week, Rob and I are going to give you an intimate look into our space and how it's used using our new 360 model of the whole campus. And some background on the building itself. Since its founding in 1881, NBSS has been a fixture of the North End here. Originally nestled in several smaller buildings within the interior of the community back on North Bennett Street, the school moved to this new expansive home, which is the most prominent surviving example of Georgian Revival civic architecture in Boston, near the Rose Kennedy Greenway in 2013. This building, designed by John M. Gray, the Depression-era masonry structures were envisioned as a single civic complex with 3 distinct facades as part of the East Boston Tunnel project in 1934. The buildings were then listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2015. And as Rob said, there are other future ways that you'll be able to come and tour the building once we're all back to normal. But for now, we're going to try to guide you through this new imagery that we have. I'm starting with this dollhouse perspective because even when we all who get to spend time in this building all the time, even when we got to see this imagery, this blew our collective minds. It gives you this overwhelming perspective of all of the bench space in this entire building, just to see it from this angle. And this is the overhead footprint of the building. The tunnel runs under here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. Can you, Rob? Yeah. So the tunnel runs sort of right under these buildings under here. And then this is our parking garage. So it's just this really interesting structure. And without making people seasick, I just want to slowly show you the real magnitude of this dollhouse imagery. I mean, everywhere you look, there's a workbench. There are tools everywhere. It's just incredible. So tell me if I'm making anybody dizzy. I'm just going to try to do like a quick spin here before we go into the floors. And I'm not sure if Rob mentioned this, but we're going to sort of turn this over to our guests to if there's a program that you want to see or a specific area you want to see, just chat into us and say, take me there and I'll take you there. And other than that, we're just sort of going to meander through the facility. I see a chat there. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Lonnie Gray. All right, let me just do another quick spin here. Just blows my mind. We do not take this building for granted, those of us who work here, so.
Bookbinding. Looks like Laura wants to check out bookbinding.
Okay, let's go to bookbinding.
So that's on the second floor in the south building. And in this space, even though continuing education is not running at the moment because of our safety protocols, this is one of the areas where the full-time programs and right where Kristen is pointing, this room here is shared by the full-time accredited career training programs and continuing education.
Mm-hmm. You can see all of our COVID protocol material in here as well. That's we had these images done after, obviously, within this past year. So that's why you're seeing all these screens up everywhere. Here's somebody's beautiful paring knives down here. And then if I go into this space, this is where all of the tooling equipment is kept. This room is one of my favorites in the building just because of the light and all of the windows. Oh, well, and the massive equipment. I mean, look at these machines. Let's see if we can see the tunnel over there. Kind of, not really.
And then Marilee has a question about what crafts are taught. And if you can see, Marilee, on the menu that's right on the right, while we're taking the tour, the full-time programs are all listed right there. Bookbinding, furniture making, carpentry, jewelry making and repair, locksmithing, piano technology. There's 2 separately accredited programs there. And then preservation carpentry, let me see, violin making also probably just isn't making the menu right now. But those are the full-time programs. Continuing education has some overlap with them and then some different things. And then if anybody is aware or is on our email list, one of the things that the school is working towards is offering a lot of education online. So we have plans to do that. Not necessarily in the career training places per se, but along the lines of continuing education and introductory things.
I just want to chime in. If our screens up at the top are in the way, you should be able to move the view that you have of Rob and I if you want to shove us over to the right or put us at the top if you're missing some imagery here. And then I'm seeing other requests to see PC, locksmithing, and cabinet and furniture. So let me get you there. And at this point, I think we're just going to go wherever the wind takes us, right, Rob?
Let's go.
All right.
And then Lonnie, I see you have a question about, fashion, clothing construction. Is it considered a trade? I absolutely think so. I know there's places like, Fashion Institute of Technology, and there's even from our history, there was, I don't know if it was a full-time program or not, but there's photographs of people that are using sewing machines from probably the 20s or 30s.
Thank you, Rob. Before we jump to PC, I just thought I'd stop here because this is a project that Preservation Carpentry has been working on. They have their own workshop space where we'll take you in this tour, but this is a structure that was so massive that they built it in our gallery space in the middle of the building. And Rob can probably speak to it better than I can.
Yeah, so thank you. And there's articles about this particular structure. So this is a replica of the second floor above the entrance of John Hancock's house that used to be overlooking the Boston Commons near the State House. And as a matter of fact, John Hancock donated the land so that the State House could be built. And ironically, when they expanded, they wound up wrecking the original house here. And at the time, we didn't really have architectural preservation as a concept in the United States. And so while I think people scrambled to try and save the house, they were not successful at the time. However, it caused enough outrage about the disappearance of the house that it kind of was the birth of architectural preservation in the United States. So it's kind of cool and meta in that, you know, a place that has a preservation carpentry program winds up over time working on this replica. And in a sense, preservation carpentry as a program wouldn't exist in some way if it wasn't for the original destruction of this house.
Thank you, Rob. I'm going to try to answer a question that's coming in. How is COVID changing your offerings besides being remote?
We're not remote. And so we did for the programs, when COVID hit, you know, last March, we immediately moved to remote as a way to engage and to begin testing ways that we could, you know, deliver the curriculum. But we essentially each program, you know, connected with their students online for the last 2 months. And then all of those programs were invited back in September. And probably very important to share, we have leadership here, a committee for safety that has gone to great lengths to make the building safe for people to be in. And I'd say that has been a really fantastic effort. And we invited some new students where we had the safe space to do so, and all of the students that had to stop in April to come back in September and finish out for the first 2 months. And then a few programs like piano technology and carpentry had a delayed start to November. So we're absolutely affected, like the whole rest of the world, by the pandemic. And we're all feeling, I say collectively at this time, like we made a lot of really great safe choices for our community, and have been able to do that pretty safely.
I'm just going to jump in. Thank you, Rob. I just want to jump in and tell everybody where we are now. I was trying to poorly zoom into some windows in that was the PC1 space we were just in, Preservation Carpentry 2 space, where they were working on restoring old wood windows. Sorry, it's a truck going by. Just really giving you the taste of the North End today. And so here we are in the Preservation Carpentry, one of their machine rooms that's so bright and clean. And you can see the North End right out this window. I love this shot. And I'm going to get us into the other Preservation Carpentry space where the first year PC does their work and learning and drawing. They start off drawing and building in this space. So this is the other machine room that is used by both years of Preservation Carpentry, but it's attached to the first year space. And so this is the first year Preservation Carpentry's bench room, which is also just beautiful. The light in here is incredible.
And if I can just jump in here, right, almost in the middle here is a hanging toolbox. And I think this is a really good example of how the curriculum is delivered at North Bennett Street School. It is a functional toolbox, but it's also an educational piece where you're going to learn how to cut dovetails and how to put something together. And then you'll notice that it's a 2-panel door that's on the front. So it's kind of to scale. It's a smaller scale so that altogether it's functional, but incorporated in this project that is a make and take for students is a good number of skill building pieces as well. So if you graduate and someone asks you, I need to replace a 4 or a 6-panel door that's from a certain time period, you've at least had this experience in making your hanging cleated toolbox where you'll have some skill and confidence to be able to do that.
I'm going to jump upstairs into carpentry. Here we go. So this is the entrance to the carpentry space. I'm going to take you in here first to the left side of the space where the wall cutter is, this big, what do they call it in carpentry?
Sorry.
It's a wall saw?
Yeah, it's
like a panel saw, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Marilee has a question of, do we have a library from our history at the turn of the last century? I want to say that, what is the name escapes me. Radcliffe. Radcliffe, because of our association with people from Harvard over a long period of time, our founder's father, I think, was president of Radcliffe. They have stored, I think, everything up until 1985 there.
It's the Schlesinger collection at Radcliffe.
Thank you, Kristen.
And also, as I'm just reminded, we had a book released last year, 2 years ago, called Rewarding Work, which you can actually purchase in the online store here. And that gives an extensive history with imagery of the school. Here's just a cool picture of our dust collection system in one of the programs.
Yeah, moving to this new building gave us a lot of opportunities to do things around air quality, dust collection, and we have a silver lead solar panel array on the roof. And I don't know if it's still the largest one in the city of Boston, but at the time it was put up there, it was the largest.
I love this space in carpentry at the beginning of each school year. And tell me if I'm speaking incorrectly here, Rob. What's the student count typically in carpentry?
Usually about 26 students.
Right. So at the beginning of each school year, we put these toolkits together for the students, and all lining this whole room are 26 identical red toolkits, and it's just a beautiful sight.
And Kristen does all of that, as a matter of fact.
I mean, I wasn't sharing that as a plug, but it just does like a cool thing to see. But thank you, Rob.
No, yeah, and it's great. All of our programs, there's a tool list and toolkits. We want to make sure that when you leave, you have everything you need to be successful. The other thing in the other room is, and you don't have to go back, Kristen, but you saw there was benches that ran the length. Pretty much everything in here, and even in this room here, the students have made all of these things. So kind of like that cleated toolbox again, students are learning, by making, and then those useful items in turn are useful for the next group of students that comes in. Absolutely.
Currently, right here on this back wall where all the lumber was originally stored, it's now, they've now built in beautiful custom bookcases along this whole wall. That's actually currently happening. Let's go up to cabinet and furniture making. So we're just going up one floor. Cabinet and furniture making is just one floor above carpentry. And this is the entrance to this space right here. And this is where a shop monitor sits, sort of the monitor of the program, sort of head bench in a way. I guess you could you say that, Rob?
Whoever's there probably would appreciate that title.
Yeah. You also are going to see all of these monitors everywhere, and this is a new thing that also came along with, you know, the need for remote learning starting last March. So
this program is our largest program and probably has the largest amount of square footage as well. We have space for about 40 students, and in this program, there's 2 starts a year. And so that would mean about 4 classes of about 10 people each. There's the machine room on the right, a similar setup as downstairs from where we came from. You can see on the left here, that is one of the, we just kind of went by it, that the plexiglass. And we had a crew all last summer that put all these together as appropriate for each one of the programs.
Mm-hmm. I also, there's a note about the placement of the machine rooms. One of the reasons that the architects designed them in the center of each program, you'll see when we were in carpentry, it's in the center of the wings that are the classrooms. And that goes for, I think most of the programs, PC, and the reason was to not have to sacrifice any of the windows, because the windows are, you know, what make this whole space. I think any student that studies here would say that. So I'm just going to move around the machine room here. And you can see, as Rob said, this is the largest program. And you can see there's all of these other benches on this side. Trying to move a little quicker here.
You just went right through that plexiglass. This is like
that's magic.
One of the things that occurs to me in going around through this tour like this is I feel like, you know, the buildings that were connected when we moved here, one was police station number 1 for a very long time. One was the City of Boston print building. And it really, as I'm going through this, because I have not physically been in here in a long time, but just, it almost feels like it was built for what it is being used for right now. And I think that's the way that the architects work to create these spaces. They just have done a really great job in doing that.
Also, just the poetry of the placement. I'll never forget this. The idea of why, and we'll get there. The violin making program is right next to the carpentry program because of that beautiful little sentiment of teaching. It's something about the carpentry program. Help me out. Somebody help me out. I'm going to keep going, but somebody help me out with this beautiful metaphor that was the reason for putting those two very sort of opposing sort of crafts right next to one another.
I mean, I think what's interesting, I think, Kristen, is like carpentry is a very general market. It's a 9-month program, so it's one of our shortest, and it's you could go, you know, pretty much anywhere in the world and get a job. And with violin making, it's our longest program at 30 months, where they're replicating historical instruments And compared to construction, it's like a micro industry. And so I feel like if I hope that's what you're getting at, Kristen, is just, I think the scale of what we offer and why all of these things require an amount of hand skills and an amount of problem solving. Those are threads that run across every program, continuing education, and that's really cool. And I feel like those are kind of the connectors of what the broader community is about. And when people can meet each other in the hallways and get to know each other, I think people pretty quickly realize they have a shared interest in that way. Is that helpful, Kristen?
It is, but Sarah just reminded me of what it is. Thank you so much, Sarah, to remind carpenters that they're making something beautiful and remind violin makers that they're making something useful. That's what it was. But we love the micro and the macro work next to one another. So perfect. Thank you. This is the lathe room, which I think everybody finds great joy in seeing. I also just want to point out the sawdust on the plexi shields. That means that, you know, the lathes are being used all the time, and there's literally sawdust flying around everywhere. I guess since we're here, we'll go into piano. What do you think, Rob?
Great.
Okay. So this is advanced piano technology. And this is where students are learning to essentially build the piano from the ground up. Is that a reasonable way to put that?
I think I would say restore pianos, because all of the pianos that come in, faculty are discerning about, you know, which ones they are. And this reminds me of this concept of, you know, in construction, I started in demolition and was told you'll learn how to build things by destroying them. And then in bookbinding, they learn how to repair things by making them new. So it's two kind of different directions you can come from. And I think piano is a good example of you could come to this program, learn how to rebuild a piano, and then maybe get a job working at one of the two remaining factories that do build from the ground up. That is Steinway in Long Island City, and Mason and Hamlin up in Haverhill, Mass.
Mm-hmm. I always love in this space the pulley system. They use these pulley systems to pull the entire iron center out of the grand pianos, and I think that's just really cool to imagine that happening. We don't really think about when we think of the pianos in our homes. Now we're in basic piano technology. So let's talk about this program space.
The wall of hammers on the left is kind of interesting.
It is. I'm going to circle back to that.
Great.
I'm going to build it up. What? Let's build this up. So this is their kitchen. These are some tuning rooms, and there's the wall of hammers. What an interesting juxtaposition we have here. We have these manual hammers next to this massive screen TV. And one of my favorite fun facts about this space is that this was the police station part of this complex. And Rob, were these the bunk rooms for
yeah,
the police?
these are the barracks.
Yes.
And then where Claire's office is, our provost, right next to her, I think, was a holding cell.
Right. So the barracks now are perfectly functioning, you know, kind of miraculously, coincidentally, as tuning rooms where the, you know, students who are learning how to tune pianos have to have kind of just absolute silence or just be able to hear really well.
I think we have about 35 pianos in and around the building for students to work on.
Mm-hmm. Last year, we did a conversation about the history of this building within this Boston Design Week. And we actually aired it we live streamed from one of these rooms that used to be a bunk room for the police officers who worked here and slept here. We're back into the center gallery here. This is Wingate. This is the upper floor. And in a typical year, we have exhibitions that showcase all of the student work in this floor as well as down here. And I just want to go back to this preservation carpentry project here, the Hancock door. As Rob said, this is the second floor replica. There's the whole first floor, and that's already been done. It was on exhibit at the old State House. Yes. And there's conversation of connecting the two of them within this space because it just fits. And so maybe in a year or so, year or two, I don't know, I wouldn't dare put a timeline on it. This whole thing would be joined together on this massive wall here, which would be really incredible.
Speaking of connecting things, I think what's cool about this space here is, you know, these buildings abutted each other, but were not technically put together until the school acquired the property. And so the floor here was on top of what used to be the garage for the police station. And once this area was enclosed, it afforded the school to host different events in a way that we previously were just not able to do. Anytime we tried to gather any number of students, they might go to the advanced piano space in our old building. And this has been a huge plus for us. And then the elevator here opens on both sides, because if you see the landing on the stairs there, the north building and the south building just don't align. It looks like there's about a 4 or 5 foot difference. And so that elevator shaft there is the thing that helps to make us ADA compliant and give access for the north and the south building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great space to work with. I love setting things up in here. And this grand staircase, I'm going to go down to locksmithing because we've had a request for locksmithing. And this sits on the first floor. And I guess after we go through this space, I'll take you back out so you can see where it is. Where should we go first here, Rob?
You can go straight ahead into the installation room, or
let's just go in the installation room.
Let's see. So this is pretty cool. These pods were put together. You can see you can put in different blanks. So the locksmithing students will come in here in their second half of their 9 months and just learn how to install the locks and all of the system around the door. And all of these pieces are replaceable, so we don't have to go through doors all the time. And you can change the materials as well. So it could be aluminum or steel or core or solid. And I feel like when I can visit there, the students, I feel like it's fun to do those things. So
I'm just trying to show everybody too the webbing into the city and to the north end is so clear in this program. I mean, you're right on the tunnel. I'm going to go into this other room where you can actually see the entrance to the tunnel. It's just part of the coolest things here. Here's Barb's library, which she's just so immaculate with. And her new, what is the space called? It's the technology zone, I think.
I forget what she's been calling it, but there's an electronic access door there.
It's the access zone.
Access zone. What a team. Barb.
So this is would we just call this the bench room?
Yeah, this is where new students come. The keys on the left, you learn key identification.
Another work of art by Barb.
Yeah, very well organized. And you learn how to cut keys, a whole host of fundamentals in this room.
I'm just going to find this corner over here. I really want people to experience the mesh into the city. You can see it right there a little bit. It's the entrance to the tunnel. Yeah. So you're literally on the tunnel right here. And I just love that. It's just like one thing. Let's head back out into the hallway. I'll show you the entrance. We'll go back into the entrance. This is the space that Rob was referring to as one of the offices that was the holding cell.
Something. And there, right here, you can see there's some pottery that was from the Saturday evening club that's on loan right now, something from the early days.
Oh. Sorry, that's not the pottery. That's our food pantry, which helps, with food insecurity here at the school, and we have great donors that give us food too, so that our students can comfortably take food home with them. So this is our main entrance where you walk in off of North Street, and this is where I'm sitting right now. This is our sort of front gallery space.
Well, that's meta.
I know. It's actually really very confusing to me. And this is our gallery and store. This is where I work. And here we sell handmade books and jewelry and furniture pieces. You can see all of the handmade books in here and journals, as well as tools for all of the students. We usually provide and we create kits for all of the students when they first start so that they're all set to go day one. And here's our front desk. And here's that grand staircase. I'm going to take you to the top and maybe we can see. Oh yes, I'll take you to jewelry making. 1 second. Let's go up these steps and I'll show you maybe a better angle of the tunnel. Yeah, there you go. This is the landing into the Wingate Gallery where you can see, there's the tunnel. All right, let's hop up to jewelry and I'm going to take you the slow way, so bear with me because we're almost there.
I'll also add for everybody here, if you didn't see this, we had an open house event in December where we went around these spaces live and we spoke with students and faculty. And I'm just, as we're heading to jewelry, I'm just remembering each one of the programs did a fantastic job. But I just had kind of a memory flash of when we toured through jewelry with faculty and students. And that's available on our website. So if you just go to the website, go to the search bar and put open house, that ought to take you so that you can go through each one of these spaces again, and you can see some of the activity that happens there when students and faculty are there.
Yeah, that was a great program, just because you get to see, you get to hear from a student who's doing a demo. We did a lot of demos, and you get to actually, it's really the best way to feel the space is through their eyes and their talking and their experience, I think. Although I think we're doing pretty good right here, Rob.
Oh, definitely.
This is, I don't really know what to call this. This is where Anne, who's the director, the head of the program, this is where she always sits and does her good work. Oh, I'm sorry, Rob.
That monitor is connected there, and that's one of the things, and a lot of the programs are functioning this way, where having a camera on the work and magnifying it so that everybody can see in a magnified way what faculty or a student is demonstrating. It's something that I've heard faculty and students say that even though this has developed during the time of safe distancing, that these are tools that people are excited about keeping.
Mm-hmm. I was trying to zoom in here to see, this is sort of their mini gallery to show you what objects you learn to make in the jewelry making program, but I just can't get close enough. So you'll just have to see that in person, or maybe I'm sure we got a close up in the open house video.
And there's some great pictures on our website also of some of the work.
So here's a student jewelry bench. There you go. I love these. I love jewelry making benches because they're just, everything's right there.
I can see the little egg crate that's down in the drawer. I imagine that's for sorting like small findings or something like that. Very practical.
Mm-hmm. It just, it's just like a couple feet wider than your person. And so everything is just right there that you need. So you can just be in the zone, as Barb Baker would say. What have we missed? Do we do violin making? We haven't gone in there.
It's across the way.
Let's go across the hall to violin. Let's see here. And here we're going into violin making and repair. Let's start. We'll start on the farthest corner. This is their finishing room, where violin makers obsess over the layers and layers of varnish they're putting on their violins and make sure it just hits the light just right.
And I think we were talking about rooms and about this program being next to carpentry, if I remember correctly, because natural light is so important in violin making. I think that this program got dibs on where they might land in the building.
Yes, and usually these shades are all up and the light is pouring in, and it seems like every time I go in there, they're just relying on natural light. I never see the the overhead fluorescence on. So here's, let me try to get you into this bench space, because violin making bench spaces are pretty spectacular. It's hard for me to get up close, but I can at least maybe go over to the sharpening station, which is also pretty cool. That's the other thing that violin makers learn to do for how long of the first portion of their program, Rob? Is sharpen. Yeah. I
can tell you there's a series of 7 sharpening stones, and I think that the grit goes down to something like 20 or 30,000 pretty much, which is about as smooth as a baby's skin, I think.
So Claire just clarified this for me. They keep violin making keeps the overhead lights off so that they can get the raking light, and can see the curves that they're carving. Thank you, Claire. And
this program I mentioned is our longest, and we've got the capacity for 12 students in this program. And being project-based, you make 6 violins, a viola, and then an optional instrument, which may or may not be a cello. Usually takes you about 9 months to make your first full playable instrument. And I am wildly fascinated that even though you're replicating a historical instrument, you're 9 months going on kind of faith of what is the first sound that's going to make. So Arthur has a question. Is the process transferable to bass viol techniques? I would say yes, to a certain extent. And we have had two stand-up bass instruments made in the program by students that advocated to do this. But at the same time, those instruments are constructed differently and are kind of a distant cousin to the violin. So we really just focus on those three instruments: violin, viola, and cello, and mostly violin. So I hope that that's helpful to you.
And I'll answer this other question, asking Rob and I for a recommendation for a carpenter. Your best bet is to go to our website, and you'll see a section right on this main page that says hire a student or grad. And you can post a single commission on there, and you will tap into our whole network of carpentry students and grads who are doing that kind of work.
That's a great point, Kristen. And I've actually noticed my neighbors where I live have hired a few students, and so they've come through here recently. So it absolutely works to go there and fill out that form with whatever job that you have.
Mm-hmm. And there's a question from the very beginning of the program that I think Rob is answering about what types of crafts are taught here. And then beyond that, so I'm sure Rob can answer that for us, but beyond that, we're wide open for any questions that you have. And I'm just gonna sort of stew around the building as you get us your questions or thoughts or notions.
Yeah, and Kristen, when that's Marilee who asked, and I pointed out that the menu on this tool for touring is a good good idea of what the programs are that are here. But violin making is cut off here, and continuing education is a pretty broad range of things as well. And I think worth repeating again is we have an initiative right now to move continuing education online. And so we're all very excited for what things are going to arise there. And it's not just limited to what we offer for full-time career training. It'll be a lot of kind of parallel and connected mediums.
Mm-hmm. Range of age of students is another question.
So our students have been 18, and I want to say our oldest student, to my knowledge, has been 74. Our average age of students for about the past 20 years has been 30, but it really is, I would say, very generationally and experientially diverse. And a question I get a bunch when people call on the phone is, are there people there like me? And a lot of times what I discover is that it's people that might be 40 plus that are wondering if there's people that are around their age. And so I'll always say that our age limit for full-time programs is 120. No one has beat that. And of course, there are a number of technical requirements around being physical and handling tools and materials and things like that. But we're happy to work with people individually. And we also, we make accommodations within reason around those things as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that answers, that's my long answer for how old are people that are here.
There's a question that I know Rob can surely answer, or maybe Claire in background can help us. I've heard it was a record amount of time that the building was transformed and the whole school moved over here. A guest is asking how long did it take for these buildings to be transformed into what it is now?
What was it, Claire? It was like less than a year. I mean, from when construction started to when it was open and able to be used?
I've heard started demolition in November 2012 and moved in July 2013.
Yeah, we had a meeting in my office about how to use the new phones, and there was no furniture, so we all kind of sat around like it was a 70s college movie.
That's incredible. There's another question here that Rob, you will probably answer better than I can, from Lonnie Gray.
So Carpentry teaches residential and other structural materials for building. Do you build small houses as you built small tool cabinets? Yes, we build sheds, which are essentially tiny houses. Some of those sheds, when they're done, will happen down in the Blue Hills at a location where both carpentry and preservation carpentry will work. A lot of times we sell those. And so if anyone has any interest, you can inquire about them. And then the other thing, we've been calling it Bennett Town, but when we have a focus on interior pieces, we essentially will build out that area in carpentry where we visited that had the benches lined up, where it gets all framed out. Students work in teams of about 5 and will take ownership of a section and do all the sheetrocking, the trim. They'll mill the trim. They'll hang doors and windows. And it looks like a condo complex is built right inside the building. It's pretty cool. Claire wants to share that we're always looking for class projects for our carpentry program. So if you're looking for something to be renovated or built new, a garage, anything like that, addition, you can get in touch with the school through the website. We're essentially looking for projects that are within about an hour from the school. And what I can say about that is when I've gone to college fairs, a lot of times teachers and guidance counselors will come up to the table and say, your carpentry class made our garage. And when the inspector came, he said he'd never seen something that was like over spec like this. So you get a great deal when you do that. It's less expensive than calling a contractor directly. Of course, the give and take is that, you know, it's on a curricular or school schedule, but you're always guaranteed good work.
Yeah, I think we've done it. So thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon. Really, it's been a pleasure, Rob.
Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you enjoy all of Design Week. For anybody who has any interest in learning more about the full-time programs, I'm hosting a noon information session just about every Monday, and you can find that on our website as well. So thank you, Kristen. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sarah, Barbara, and Claire for being in the chat there.
Yes. And that's it. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Rob. All right. See you soon.